everybody, Earl at thelogbook.com, back for more Voyages of Shelf Discovery. Dipping into an alternate universe here, because other than the soundtracks and the movies themselves, I haven't really added much of the alternate timeline that began with the 2009 Star Trek movie to my collection. Nothing against it. I actually kind of like the 2009 movie. I like Star Trek Beyond. Star Trek Into Darkness was a hot mess that should never have been filmed. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But I haven't really done much in the way of collectibles. However, during the Master Replicas sell-off of remaining Eaglemoss stock, I saw this come up that I thought I had missed out on completely, and I thought, okay, it's cheaper than it would have been in the heyday of Eaglemoss. Let's go ahead and get it. And this is Shuttlecraft Set 4 from the Eaglemoss Starships collection. These are all shuttles from the 2009 movie and its sequels. So let me preface this by pointing out why I was intrigued enough to pick up this set. I do have a couple of kind of platonic ideals of Star Trek shuttlecraft. I actually really like Star Trek shuttlecraft in various forms, all the way up to the Runabout. But these two, for me, these kind of set the template. These are what everything else has to live up to. On the left you have, and these are both previous Eaglemoss models that we've already opened on Shelf Discovery. On the left you have the original Galileo 7, which was designed by Gene Winfield at AMT Models, because AMT and Desilu did a deal where AMT got rights to do Star Trek model kits in exchange for creating the full-size Galileo shuttlecraft. And it's kind of funny because that is not what Matt Jeffries designed. Matt Jeffries, the production designer on the original Star Trek, designed something much more elaborate, a lot more curves, a lot more futuristic, if you will. A kind of retro-futuristic, really, because it was 60s futuristic. It did fit in well with the aesthetic of the Enterprise itself, having a saucer section, a round section, but ultimately it was not going to be something that could be built in full-size studio scale. And so it was left to AMT, since they were going to be building the full-sized shuttlecraft, the 1-to-1 scale studio prop. It was up to them to come up with a practicable design, a practical, buildable design. And so it ended up being a bit more of a shoebox with engines on it. On the right, you have the Andrew Probert, the original Star Trek The Next Generation shuttle, which I thought took the basic outline of the original series shuttle and very nicely updated it to the Next Generation aesthetic. I will never live down the fact that it fell victim basically to the same problem that the Matt Jeffries shuttle design did, which was too many curves, too many rounded off parts. They could never come up with a studio scale full-size prop for it, and so then we started getting these very chunky, angular, easier to build little shoeboxes. So history kind of repeated itself there. And the Andrew Probert shuttle design fell out of favor and wasn't used as much, which that's very sad. I've made it a point to try to collect that shuttle design in whatever form, whether it's the Eaglemoss shuttle or the Gloob action figure scaled version of that shuttle, which was nothing to sneeze at. maybe we'll take a look at that one some other time. So right now, let's open these up. Pardon me, Mercutio. Didn't mean to startle you. And get these out of here. As with all of the other shuttlecraft sets that Eaglemoss did, you have 4 individually boxed ones. The boxes are the same size as the original packaging from the Starships collection. But these tend to be quite a bit smaller. And we'll find out shortly. Okay, here come the magazines for each one. The magazines are kind of scaled down compared to the magazines that come with your typical Starship Collection models, because the magazines they're smaller and they're much thinner. It's all in universe with very little or no information on, in this case, on the production design and so forth. Either that information was not forthcoming from the studio, or they just ran out of room compared to the magazines we got, which were... That guy looks kind of small. The magazines had lots of diagrams and pictures, not a whole lot of text, so it could be that they weren't provided very much material. Let's start out opening the Warrant shuttle. The magazines go into more detail, and I've read the magazines and I've completely forgotten the detail. Each one of these does include sort of a mini translite of the ship schematic with a stand that you can set up behind it if that's what you want to do. I tend to keep the translites in the box for safekeeping, and I do keep the boxes. Your typical weighted stand, which is occasionally a little bit difficult to get out of the little baggie. Just a little bit difficult. And that's because Mercutio didn't stick around to help me. So you put the clear plastic support on the weighted base, and then you pull out the vehicle, and it's ready to display. Now, these being vehicles from the age of CGI, there is quite a lot of surface detail on them, which they did their level best to replicate here. Let's kind of talk about why I actually wanted to pick up the Kelvin Timeline shuttle set. I'm not that crazy about the Kelvin Timeline Enterprise. It seems a little bit off to me. I don't think these two are in scale, by the way. But here what you're seeing is that the Kelvin Timeline shuttles do represent something of a reach back to the original series shuttle design. Somewhat. You know, a slight updating of the shape. And not bad at all. Okay, so that one is the Warrant shuttle. Here we have the Passenger shuttle, which has quite a bit more cockpit window going on. Mercutio is once again in attendance to help me open this one, although he's trying to play with the other shuttles off screen. Sorry about that. This one reminds me a little bit of the air tram that Admiral Kirk arrives in at the beginning of Star Trek The Motion Picture. It's like if you took the air tram and stuck Galileo-style warp engines on it, which that strikes me as a really cool idea. I liked the air tram. Thought the air tram would have looked even cooler with engines on it. But I'm assuming the vehicle we saw in Star Trek The Motion Picture in '79 was short range. It's not something that's going to space. It's something that's zooming around in Earth's atmosphere. But this one, the passenger shuttle from the 2009 movie, not so much. If I'm not mistaken, this is the shuttle that takes Kirk and Bones to the Enterprise for the first time to basically get the plot of the movie underway. And so a lot more windows on the side, a lot of window in the front, because it was known that these characters need to be able to look out the windows and see the Enterprise and go, "Ooh, wow, look at that, it's the Enterprise." And no help from the Koosh. The medevac shuttle, this one actually struck me as being potentially the coolest looking one of all, just because it's kind of got some Red Cross stuff going on with the paint job, so it pops more than any of the other vehicles in this particular set. I think we've got it down to a science now, hopefully. You've got the clear support, you've got the weighted base, you have the dreaded baggie that you have to all but shred to extricate the weighted base. Sometimes the old manual dexterity ain't what it used to be. That is all I can say in my defense. Well, why is the base in a baggie to begin with? I mean, the shuttle isn't even in a baggie. What's up with the baggie? Are we trying to protect the finish of the base? It's protected by the same plastic shell as the rest of it. I have lots of theories as to why Eaglemoss went under. That's a beautiful little model. Okay, so you've got doors. This really strikes me as being the most like the original Galileo in terms of the details. You have the doors on the side. You have the engines on the struts. That to me, that is very, very Galileo. Again, I don't think we are in scale, not by a long shot, with Eaglemoss's previous Galileo 7 model. And we'll talk about that even more when we open the last one. This is the transport shuttlecraft. This one kind of raised my hackles. There is a term that is applied to things like potato chips and other food items where the size of the packaging stays the same, but the amount of product within is gradually and deliberately lowered. It's called shrinkflation. There's our little diagram. I haven't shown one of these yet. You can barely see it there. And it's upside down, sorry. But one of those comes with each one, and Mercutio is certainly very interested in that. So again, we have the support, we have the weighted base, we have the very attentive black cat. We're headed into spooky season. What the heck? He may just be a fixture on the show from now on, as he is wont to do. Okay, got into this one somewhat easy. Almost, kinda, sorta easy. Close enough. But once we have the stand and the support set up, that leaves us with this itty-bitty shuttle. And this feels like some shuttlecraft shrinkflation to me. Guys, this thing is tiny. This thing is smaller than your typical Hot Wheels car. It's itty bitty. Look at how small that is compared even to the other shuttles in the same set. It's a neat little model, but shouldn't this have been a bit bigger? Unless we're doing all 4 of them in the same scale and this just happened to be the tiniest one. It's, Eaglemoss used to charge just shy of $100 for these shuttlecraft box sets. And that included this one when it first initially went on sale under Eaglemoss. Let's look at this little guy again. Even seeing the detail doesn't really make up for the fact it is so small. And so, yeah, I've got to cry foul on this one. This is some bull. This is some Klingon Targ poop going on here, because that dude is tiny, and considering the pricing of the original set, you have to look at it as they thought this was $25 worth of shuttlecraft. I beg to differ. The medevac shuttle, that's much more like it. I still think this is my favorite one in the set. This, of course, is in the altered timeline, because there are time travel shenanigans that kick everything off in the 2009 movie. This is the birthplace of James T. Kirk, that shuttle. This one comes in a pretty close second on detail and just the overall look. Like I said, it kind of feels like the 1979 motion picture air tram with some engines on it, which always struck me like it would be a cool idea. The Warrant shuttle seems like it's a bit more of an up-armored version of the medevac shuttle. Like, this one is going to ride into trouble. If I'm not mistaken, this is what the captain of the USS Kelvin rode to go have an exceedingly short conversation with Nero. So there you have it, with the granddaddy of them all, with the Galileo bringing up the rear for comparison. The shuttles from Eaglemoss Shuttlecraft Set 4. Master Replicas had these at a discount, and then toward the end of Master Replicas, when I picked the Master Replicas license period where they had permission to sell off the old Eaglemoss stock that hadn't sold and that kept turning up in warehouses. Toward the end of that period, Master Replicas kept on piling on discount codes that you could use in addition to the existing discounts, and that was where I finally picked up Shuttlecraft Set 4 for less than $80. But still, even if we're talking about less than 80, are we saying that little tiny shuttle, smaller than a Hot Wheels car, I have to keep pointing that out, is that anywhere near being worth $20 or just under $20? Now that to me is more like a $5 item at best. And so I am enthusiastic that Fanhome is picking up the Starships Collection license. I am not enthusiastic about the prices I have seen. I am starting to feel like my time with this product range, as far as collecting new ones to add to my collection, I'm starting to feel like that time is coming to an end, and I may be done with the tiny starships. It was a good ride while they were good value for money, but when shuttlecraft shrinkflation sets in, my enthusiasm drains away very quickly, almost like I've had a conversation with Nero.